Silencing our cell phones, and I'd like to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the Shenandoah Valley. My name is Fletcher Walsh, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we thank you for coming today. And there are many choices out there to do on a Sunday, and we're glad you made the choice to be here today. As UUs, we are on a journey that honors all individual backgrounds and experiences. Our beliefs are diverse and inclusive. We think for ourselves and we reflect together. We are curious and compassionate, thinkers and doers. We have a mission and 8 principles printed within your order of service that serve as our covenant with each other and with equal measure, our connection to the world around us. Reverend Carter's message today on justice, equity, and compassion in human relations will be speaking to our second principle, which our Social Action Committee's purposes is aligned with and guided by. Perhaps today's sermons will nudge you with curiosity and be involved with this group, which meets tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here in the sanctuary. And it's every other Monday at 1 p.m. is when they meet. So hopefully someone... Second, excuse me, thank you. My apologies. The second Monday, yep. Okay, we'd like to recognize first and second time visitors, those of you who haven't been in here a while, to stand. If you're comfortable in doing so, introduce yourself and tell us where you're from. Can we start in the back on this side? Anybody?
Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I live in Baltimore.
Welcome, Rebecca. Anybody else on this side? Okay. How about over here? Thank you for coming, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you both for coming today. And we're pleased you decided to make this your choice this morning. Folks from our welcoming committee, they're identified with orange name tags, will be available to answer any questions that you might have. Today's going to be a little tight. We've got our June annual meeting this morning. So perhaps next week you can continue to come back to see us because our potluck is next week. It's always good, delicious. Desserts are amazing. So we hope to see you there. So we're going to end this part of the service with our land and labor acknowledgement, and it's located on the back side, upper right-hand corner of your order of service. And for those of you who are comfortable in joining in, your participation is always welcomed. So if you're ready, we acknowledge with respect that this land is the sacred ancestral home of the Cherokee and other native peoples who survived and continue to make their home here. We deeply regret the genocide and broken treaties by which their land was stolen and from which we all benefit. We support the Cherokee as they seek redress for these injustices. We also acknowledge that this country was built on stolen labor and denied ownership of land to enslaved Africans, whose descendants continue to experience oppression, economic injustice, and generational trauma. We bear a moral and spiritual responsibility to oppose and work to eliminate the ongoing harm of white supremacy and racism. Now let's begin our service. If I can find it here. Someone did this, right? Yeah. This thing is not working. There we go. That works. All right, Michael.
Thank you,
It's
brother.
all yours.
The dull thud of Unitarian Universalism. It's okay. Somebody set us up. Anyway, it's good to see y'all. And today's opening words are from Beverly and David Bumbaugh. Our congregation exists to proclaim the gospel that each human being is infinitely precious, that the meaning of our lives lies hidden in our interactions with one another. We wish to be a congregation where we encounter each other with wonder, expectation, and appreciation, where we call out of each other strengths, wisdom, and compassion that we never knew we had. Now, before we go, because you know I will forget, okay. Did y'all hear that? Our opening hymn is number 121. No wrong. No wrong. That's my name. Reverend No Wrong. And I made this up. See, I figure this out every week. Can you believe it? I'm sorry. Which one is it? Okay. All right. The first one is 122. The second one is 121. I am seminary trained, believe it or not. I know. So please rise as you are willing and able. And it's 122. Thank you. Sing out. Of Shanti. There's one. For culture is made by singing songs. Thank you. Please be seated. The words of George E. Odell, Unitarian Universalist, number 468, our responsive reading in the back of the gray hymnal. 468. We need one another. What a concept. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another in the hour of success when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. Yes, sir. Okay. Well, we're kind of flowing because we got a lot to do today. This is the time in the service when we invite you to come up and share a joy, a concern, a sorrow. The water is there and it is fresh. Yes? Yes. And the stones are there, but we need you. So please come. Very nice. Who lit the chalice this morning? Okay. Do you need me to bring this to you, the water? No? Okay. This rock is for you. For those of you who, for whatever reason, didn't want to come up, we keep you in our thoughts and prayers and hearts and minds. These rocks are getting bigger. Uh, that's almost a stone. Okay. Um, let's meditate. This meditation is called When Life Gets Messy. And just center yourselves as you see fit, and we will have our usual time of quiet afterwards. When life gets messy, it's easy to pray when the sun shines and we are grateful for another glorious day of being. It is difficult to pray when wind and rain and thunder plague our every step and spoil our every plan. It is easy to be virtuous when life goes well, and our existence is a journey from bliss to beauty and back. It is hard to be virtuous when life assaults us, and our very being is a pilgrimage from bad to worse to worst. It is easy to be cheerful when health bursts in on us so that we can feel the very eros, the very pulse of life. It is difficult to be happy when pain and fatigue beset us, and we wonder if it's even possible to even go on. It is easy to do good when our goodness is rewarded and we feel the power of pride in accomplishment. It's hard to do good when we suffer for our efforts and are troubled because we've been misunderstood. It is easy to feel religious impulses well up inside us when inspiration lives at our elbow and walks with us on our path. It is difficult to feel religious when we are tired with work to be done and discouragement seems to mark our every move. O God of order and neatness, we give thanks for all that is good. We are grateful for manifold blessings bestowed upon us. And O God of chaos and disorder, be with us also when life is messy. Bless our coming in and our going out from this day forth. And now, while our minds are one, even for a brief moment, I leave you with the eloquence of silence. And so it is. It's time to collect this morning's offering. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Please rise as you are willing and able and join in singing the thud of Unitarian Universalism, hymn 121. We'll build a land. Fletcher, you set me up for this. You made it fall out. Number 121, y'all. Let's sing out. Anointed by God, like waters, and all right. So, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. For those of you who were here, the week before last, we went through the first principle, one of the toughest, if not the toughest, to live. And this one is kind of in there too. I was listening to Maya Angelou this week, an old talk, and I'm not suggesting we do any other principles. I think these are tough enough. But she was talking about courage. And she said, of all the virtues that human beings have, if you don't have courage, then none of the other ones matter, because you have to have the courage to what? To live them. And so I thought we could adopt that too in our hearts. It could be written on our hearts. We don't have to go through the UA and have more confusion. But, it's to keep that, the courage to live. So our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. These are the lived values of a free faith, these three, suggesting that the spiritual life, and by that I mean the interior life, if you don't like spirituals too woo-woo, be bilingual, translate it, don't throw it away. The spiritual life must express itself what? Ethically. We, as UUs, as Unitarian Universalists, we stress accountability to one another within our community, but outside the community as well. I'm not saying no one else does, but we really put the rubber to the road with that. Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his work on self-reliance, go back and reread it if you can, it's mwah, once wrote, "Nothing can bring you peace but yourself, but nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of your principles." Your principles. Your principles. Where do you draw your line in the sand? The late Unitarian Universalist minister Harry Meserve, he used to serve the First Unitarian Church of San Francisco. He once asked this question: if you were arrested for being a Unitarian Universalist, would there be enough evidence to convict you? We as Unitarian Universalists have always emphasized deed over creed. Right? In the book of James, chapter 2, 26, we are told that faith without works is dead. Merely believing is insufficient. If faith doesn't change behavior or show love to others, it is useless. It's ineffective. It's lifeless. It's stale life. In fact, the very name Unitarian Universalist suggests a strong ethical component. Unitarian means, well, it implies the unity, right? Oneness of all beings, binding us together in one family. Universalism suggests that our concerns are global in nature. They are universal. No one is to be excluded. No one is to be excluded. Affirming and promoting justice, equity, and compassion in human relations articulates our tradition. I understand, me, Michael, religion to be the core of ultimate meaning. Paul Tillich, the ground of all being. But religion is the core of ultimate meaning or concern and values out of which we live our lives. Central to the meaning of being a Unitarian Universalist is to be for others, commitment to the service of life. It's a key expression of what it means to be a spiritual and ethical human being. So let's tackle them a little bit. Let's talk about compassion. Western Christianity, we call it love. Love is such an overused word, but it still has the punch, but you hear it so much. And then Hinduism, when Buddhism came out of Hinduism, and they said, no, love, it's compassion. Call it what you want, you get it. Compassion is the spiritual value that supports our ethics as Unitarian Universalists. Living compassionately is an act of thanksgiving flowing from the blessings of what we have. We want to share that. This flow in the individual leads to the quest for equity and justice. How else can you express it, right? And so former UU President William Schultz put it this way: spirituality, remember my inner life, how I develop it, how I nurture it and feed it. Spirituality is the inspiration for all politics and redeems. So, commercial break now. The founding fathers knew what corrupt politics does. And now so do we. But, but, when people tell you that politics and religion don't mix, tell them to see a doctor. Because it always has. Gandhi, King. Gandhi says people who say religion and politics don't mix don't know what real religion is. How do you act it out? The Greeks were trying to do this, with the democracy. How do we act out our values? Now, Socrates and Plato, they were a little elitist, especially Plato. He said that we should all have philosopher kings. Okay? No, there's still that hierarchy. But they were trying to wrestle, what would just politics look like? When you listen to the Messiah on Easter and Christmas, the government shall be upon his shoulders. Counselor, marvelous, almighty God, king. That's political language. That's political language. Now, it may make you nervous, and it's not an indictment on that, and we can use some other words, because words can be important, but politics and religion have always matched. It's just been dysfunctional politics, and we long for a politics where there's integrity. No one's going to argue with that. You can be very religious, and mix that in your politics as long as it's fair and equitable. But you're living in a dream world if you go around saying, "Well, why you got to talk about politics and religion?" Don't. Never. Tell me a time in history when it did. Not just Western history, human history. You can't. That's the end of that commercial. Spirituality is the inspiration of all politics which redeems. Okay? For once I have looked upon the abundance of creation. This is President Schultz still talking. I cannot rest while others, caught up in its flaws, are deprived of the view. That's a healthy politics. That's a healthy spirituality infused. And I'm not just talking about religion, you can be a humanist, and those humanistic values go into your politics. Because how else do you express what you believe? Compassion comes from the Latin word com, meaning together, and pati, meaning to suffer together. In German, the word is Mitleid, feeling the misfortune of the other. Sorrow shared is sorrow cut in half, or sorrow halved, as German brothers and sisters will know about, philosophers know. UU seek to create caring communities in their congregations. A mutual ministry is grappling with the challenges of life. We realize that we cannot always navigate life's challenges alone. Often our liberal religious tendency has been towards social reform rather than pastoral care. Not in our congregation, thanks to you and Larry. I mean, that's just as important as social justice in this congregation. And thanks to people like Thich Nhat Hanh, who said you can meditate up in the mountains, but you need to come on down and get your hands a little dirty. Okay? People like that. It is true that our existential existence, in that existence, we come up against what is unfixable. That's human. That's some things we just can't fix. That which is built into the very fiber of our lives, you know. That's when you're in a body on planet Earth, this is what it is. Some things cannot be changed. Often suffering simply comes from the burdens of life and death, that existential angst. We are the only beings that know we will die. Don't tell me about your pet. We know that the clock is ticking. There's nothing to do but to accept our fate gracefully and try to nurture other other people on the journey. Let's hold hands and sing some songs, why don't we? Because we're not getting out of this alive, you know what I mean? The striking thing about our perceptions of compassion is that this feeling of deep empathy, deep sympathy and sorrow for another who's stricken by suffering is accompanied by a strong desire. We want to help. We want to alleviate the pain. That's what we naturally want to do. So when Brother Elon Musk and other uber conservative folks talk about compassion being weakness and empathy it's a form of, it's a wasteful, we have to put these people in check. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. That kind of talk. Not the first time it's happened in history, but it didn't matter because we weren't living then. We're living now. It feels different now than you read it in a book. Boy, that's terrible what they went through in Dachau. You want to go get something to eat? What do you want to have? Now, we're the ones in the book. So it feels more urgent, but it's not the first time. Sympathy, pity turns into empathy, feeling with, and finally causes us to move to action. UU Minister David Rees-Williams once wrote, "We are joined together by a mystic oneness whose source we may never know, but whose reality we can never doubt. We are our neighbor's keeper because that neighbor is our larger self." Let's talk about equity. 19th century Unitarian Senator Charles Sumner served from 1851 to 1874. He once said, I had to dig up to find these people, y'all, but they were there. They were there. I didn't even know about this brother. There are appetites at one end of the table and appetites without dinners at the other. In that statement and image, he captured the concept of inequity, a fundamental unfairness in the distribution of goods necessary for life. See, treating someone equally is not the same as treating them equitably. Equally means one size fits all. And everybody's created equal, but some people more equal than others. We know that. But equity means that we take into account your circumstances so that you can compete in the marketplace, so that you can, you can at least we can start at the same starting line together. Being treated equally and equitably are two different things. Over 100 years later, King asked the question, what good is having the right to sit at a lunch counter if I can't even afford to buy the hamburger? You see the difference? Some people have too much and don't know what to do with it. Some people have too little and don't know how to get enough. So equity ought to be distinguished from equality with its presumption of sameness. Equity not only demands that a society improve the conditions of the indigent and impoverished, but also calls into question the corruptions of the affluent. The statement by Lord Acton, you remember that, right? The English Catholic, he was liberal, a very liberal politician, that absolute power corrupts absolutely can also be translated affluence tends to corrupt. Nothing wrong with having money. If you believe it is, give me what you got. I'll take it. I'm not talking up against money, but there's a difference between having money and being wealthy, because it's up here. But affluence tends to corrupt, and absolute affluence corrupts absolutely. There is little ethical question that we ought to treat people fairly without regard to race and creed and gender, sexuality. We get that. However, what is equitable in the economic sphere is much more debatable. Example. Imagine you are among rational people, but then I digress. But imagine it for a minute. Not talking about Congress, we're talking about us. Imagine you are among rational people with roughly similar interests and needs. Generally speaking, you are equal in terms of power and ability, so that no one of us will dominate over the other. This is an illustration. You are to make your decisions on the basis of enlightenment and self-interest, but at the same time, you wish to establish the economic guidelines for a truly just social order. So you got that there. There is an equal chance you will succeed or fail, that you will become the most or least affluent person in the group. You with me? There are 10 work positions ranging from the most indigent to those who need assistance to the CEO that are necessary to maintain this society. Your annual income is $200,000. Allocate the income as fairly as possible. How equitable would you make your new society? What would fairness look like? I mean, I don't know. It isn't easy. But there is a tension between absolute equality and fairness as equity. Perhaps not everyone would get equal resources, but how would they be allocated? Some would say fairness is realized when equality works to help the least of these able to compete in today's market-driven society. There's no formula. We're not going to split the Nobel Prize money. I wish we could, but it's not easy. There's no formula. But religious prophets throughout the ages have excoriated extreme levels of wealth and poverty, denounced the rich for their indifference to the poor, and have generally chose what has been called in liberation theology a preferential option for the poor. If you're familiar with it, it started in Latin America. Oscar Romeo, when he was assassinated in South America. But, I don't think he was a Jesuit. He was obviously Catholic. But their theology was that God favors the poor. Favors the poor. You get his point. Justice. I've heard it said that justice is love operating at a distance. Public intellectual and philosopher Dr. Cornel West has said that justice is what love looks like in public, and tenderness is what love looks like in private. Beautiful. But that's not what we're talking about here. While compassionate love is a personal moral value, justice generally deals with larger social issues. It implies a fair distribution of social benefits and burdens. Justice allocates resources based on need, not greed. A New Yorker cartoon I saw when I was looking for stuff to write, to put in here. It's an old New Yorker. It depicts a dilemma. It shadows three fish swimming one behind the other. The first is a small fish. It says, "There is no justice." Immediately behind, ready to swallow it, is a larger fish, and there who says, "There is some justice in the world." Finally, there's a large fish about to swallow both of them, saying, "Life is just." Justice properly understood is systemic. It aims at the underlying causes, not just the symptoms. Treating symptoms alone might well be a temporary cover for injustice. We're not saying that that shouldn't be done, but it's like putting a Band-Aid on a cancer patient. Food kitchens are laudable and much needed. They feed the victims of an unjust social order, but they do not root out the causes of hunger. A systemic approach challenges policy issues, taxation, government social programs, and income distribution. And yes, one cannot legislate morality. King told us that. But one can put laws into place to protect those being taken advantage of. Awareness of a problem does not always lead to a solution of a problem, is my point. Some churches feel that bringing more people to Christ may solve this problem. I don't know how that's working out. They need to do that, no doubt. We're not criticizing the theology, but it's overly simplistic. It's like when Nancy Reagan was talking about teenagers, babies making babies and staying away from drugs. Just say no. It was just so overly simplistic. In liberal circles, it's often assumed that this transformation comes from what? Through consciousness raising, as if awareness of the problem, proper attitudes toward them, and good intentions somehow lead to their solution. No. The vertical line, we talked about this a few weeks ago, I'm not going to go into it, but remember, we know that cross thing. The vertical line, justice, must intersect with the horizontal line, which is society. Justice can be determined by, justice cannot be determined by democratic vote or free markets. Justice has to come from us to well up transcendent human values that judges all such arrangements. If that would have worked, we'd all be free. We'd all be free now. While traditional Judaism and Christianity, winding up, refer to the kingdom, the coming of the kingdom of God or the queendom of God as the end point of human history, I suggest maybe we change the language a bit to the term beloved community. It better elucidates the liberal religious concern for compassion, equity, and justice in human relations. Not that that's bad. We want to extend that to the animal kingdom, right? Want to extend that. Community is a term both contemporary and democratic, while kingdom is it's royalist and anachronistic. It's outdated. Kingdom also describes male power in a sexist universe, while community brings with it a sense of gender equality. I don't want you to get hung up on that. I'm just suggesting. The word God, wow, it's so variously translated by UUs and others, we will never come to a common understanding on what that really means. But beloved community is a term for humanistic theistic, and other theological perspectives. It's more of a unity. It also implies that we are attempting to love our neighbor both near and far. But use whatever term you wish. 19th century UU minister Theodore Parker said that the moral arc of the universe is long, it bends towards justice, but it doesn't do it automatically. It is dependent on people who feel compassion and equity and justice in their faith. The two basic questions we need to be asking ourselves is, what should we do and why should we do it? What should we do and why should we do it? There is a seamless garment of spirituality and social action in Unitarian Universalism. If you're not a UU, you need to think about it. Social justice is not the only thing that we focus on, but it is part and parcel of what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. Finally, as UU writer and minister Robert Fulghum, remember him, All I Needed to Know, I learned in kindergarten. He wrote this quote in a book entitled I Was on Fire When I Lay Down on It. He says, I do not want your sympathy for the needs of humanity. I want your muscle. I do not want to talk to you about how you understand the world. I want to know what you will do about it. I do not want to know what you hope for. I want to know what you will work for. The prophets of old could not have said it any better. Amen, Ashe, Satu, and blessed be. Thank you. Our closing hymn, thank you for picking this, for choosing this one. Please rise as you are willing and able. Our closing hymn, number 151. I wish I knew how. All right. Thank you, Linda, very much. Please remember, we have our congregational meeting, I think about 12:15. We could start early if I had my druthers, but 12:15. And I will be away after next Sunday for 3 months. So for my sabbatical that you have so generously provided for. So next week we're going to talk about what it means to live a life worth living. So keep that in mind. And I just want to say thank you for just everything. Keep the faith. Got some elections coming up. Got to be ready. But don't let them take away your joy. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.